Good morning. We are extremely pleased that you are here. It is good to come together for the purpose of co-creating. Do you agree? You're knowing what you're wanting? Are you enjoying the expansion of your desire? When you are enjoying the expansion of your desire, in other words, that new desire that is born within you, before it is manifest, just that fresh new idea that makes you feel exhilaration, then you are the pure extension of Source. You're doing exactly what you said you would do. You've come forth into this leading edge time-space reality where the contrast has inspired you to something new. And even though it has not been manifest or fulfilled in physical format, still you're exhilarated. The idea is life-giving to you. That's what you planned. If, on the other hand, the new idea is torturing you, in other words, you know what you want, but you are unhappy that it has not yet come about, then you've got a contradictory vibration going on within you. We would call it some resistance that is keeping you from being in the allowing or receiving mode. It is important to recognize that you are extensions of Source energy, and that once a desire, even a preference, even an unconscious preference that is born within you, you are so validated, you are so worthy, you are so out here on the leading edge, that every subtle preference, whether you are consciously aware of it or not, has summoning power. When you say, ask and it is given, you don't know the half of it. When this preference is born within you, Source energy begins immediately to respond to it. And your work then is to allow it to be. But sometimes you don't allow it to be because your dominant vibration relative to the subject of that desire is in a usually different place. That's why we're calling it a dominant vibration. Without realizing it in most cases, you have developed these patterns of vibration. In your physical format, you call them beliefs. You say, I have beliefs about this or that. And we have to say to you that the majority of your beliefs are serving you enormously well. You have such powerful expectations of well-being. Look at the way you live. Your expectations of food and shelter and finance and well-being, of abundance, it is in a very good place. Your expectation of vitality and physical health and personal abundance could use some improvement here and there. But for the most part, your expectation or belief or pattern of vibration, it's all the same thing, is in a very good place. Sometimes, now here's a good picture for you. Imagine two horses hooked together with one of those collars. And the objective is to pull the sled or the plow. There goes one now. But these horses are not united. One is pulling one way, one is pulling the other way, one is going, the other one isn't. And so it's sort of a jerky, unpleasant experience. Sometimes you've worked with someone. It might be a mate, it might be your child or your parent or someone that you work with. And even though you know you want to go to the same objective, you're sort of pulling in different directions, and so the experience is not pleasing to either one of you. Well, you do the same thing to yourself, only you are both horses. Sometimes you have a desire that is pulling you towards something, but you have beliefs or expectations or dominant vibrations that aren't in alignment. And so you have that same sort of start, stop, jerky, unpleasant experience where when you get lined up with you, life is blissful. Things happen easily. Ease becomes your joyful experience in your fantastic motion forward. So the thing that keeps that smooth, easy, delicious flow from happening within you is you have a desire that is valid. You've just given birth to it, but you've got some habits of thought or dominant vibrations that don't match. Now, when you think about your dominant vibrations, let's take some major subjects. When you think about the subject of dollars, do you feel free and easy and excited and adventurous? Or do you feel limited and bound, maybe even worried? You know. You can tell. Now, sometimes you may say, well, I feel some of all of that. And we say, that's good. That means you could choose. When you think about your physical body, do you feel sure-footed, strong, steady, exhilarated, or do you feel more tentative, a little worried, unsteady? You know. You know what of those choices feels more normal to you. When you think about your dominant relationship, does it feel life-giving and fun, or does it feel like struggle and hard work? You know. And so what we're getting at here is, without knowing it, little by little, experience by experience, some through osmosis as you have interacted with others, you've picked up these vibrational patterns. You didn't say, I'm going to set out and learn some beliefs that don't suit me. You didn't say, I think I'll pick up along my physical trail some things that will not be of advantage to me. You just had some experiences that you responded to that caused you to begin offering some vibrations. And once you began offering the vibration, it was easier, because law of attraction is very powerful, to continue to offer the vibration than to offer a different one. We were visiting with a lovely woman recently who was talking about her little girl who was afraid to sleep in her bed at night because she was afraid of spiders. And we said, why is she afraid of spiders? And her mother said, I don't know. We don't make a big thing about spiders. And we said, well, what happens when you see a spider? And she said, we vacuum it up. And we said, well, how many spiders do you vacuum up in a day? And she says, 3 or 4. And my little girl is on spider patrol. She finds them and then we vacuum them up. And we said, imagine what she must be thinking. She's lying in her bed at night. It's dark. She knows there are spiders there. She finds them all day. Only now she can't see them. And worse still, there's no one to vacuum them up even if she could see them. We said to this mother, years later, in therapy, some kind counselor will try to address this fear of spiders and will not have any idea where it began. Now, what we're getting at with this story, we're wanting you to realize that you picked up patterns all along your physical trail without even realizing that you were doing it, and some of them, most of them, serve you well, some of them do not. And so this gathering is about helping you to identify what dominant vibrations you have that aren't serving you, and do something about replacing them with vibrations that do. So there is a word we want to emphasize here, dominant vibration. It's worth thinking about. What's my dominant vibration relative to this or that? And the other word that we want you to begin to focus upon is activated, because every thought that you've ever thought still exists. But what makes them dominant depends upon how often you activate them. You get the sense of that? In other words, by dominant vibration, we just mean those that you activate more often. So sometimes people will say, well, I think that it is important that I deactivate this vibration that is not serving me. And we say, good luck with that one, because you cannot deactivate something, because when you look at this thing that you do not want, you've activated it. So you say, I'm going to deactivate you, but you don't. You activate it. And so the way you deactivate something is by activating. We might be getting 2 voices here if you're wanting to move this away. So the way that you deactivate something, which you can't do, is activate something else. And that's really what we're wanting to talk about here today. We're wanting to talk about how you get to choose what's activated. In other words, you may have had an experience when you were little with a spider. You may have had an experience. Your mother may have felt very strongly about something, or one of your teachers may have felt very strongly about something. You may have something activated within you that today is not serving you very well. What we're wanting you to realize is that you get to choose what's activated within you. You don't have to leave it to some past experience, to something that was dominantly influencing you at some point in time. You get to choose. And the process that we have discovered that works so well for you in activating vibrations that do serve you is a process that we are calling virtual reality. You have experienced things like it as you've talked about creative visualization, or as you've talked about using your imagination. But this game or process of virtual reality is different in this sense. We think it would be a good idea for you to play the game of virtual reality for one reason only, and that is to make a vibration of your choice the dominant vibration. We think that virtual reality is about making a vibration of your choice dominant. If we were standing in your physical shoes, we would use virtual reality for only one thing, and that is to make a vibration of your choice dominant. That's the only thing we would do with it. Did we mention that we would only use virtual reality? And the reason that we are playing with you about this is because there is a tendency to get into a virtual reality and take a problem that you've been working on and then try to script it into something that feels better. And that's fine for another process, but this process we would like you to leave as the pure process where its only purpose is for you to take some vibration that is of your choosing and make it dominant. Now, the way a virtual reality works is you get to set the scene, and we would encourage you to let this virtual reality be 30 seconds long. In other words, longer is all right, but not necessary. 30 seconds is an optimum virtual reality. And what you do, the whole idea of it is get in, feel good, get out. So what you do is you set a scene, just like if you were directing a movie, where you get to choose. You know how you can tell just as the scene opens what the mood of it is? You can tell by the time of year it is. You can tell by the time of day it is. You can tell by how much sun is shining or how much mist is flowing. In other words, you get to choose. So we would encourage you to pick a place that you know is easy to feel good in. It might be a place that you've been. It might be a place that you've heard about. It might be a place you've seen in a movie. A good feeling place. So you pick this good feeling place. You make the time of year just right for you to feel good within it. You make the time of day just right for you to feel good within it. You notice the surroundings just enough to make you feel really good within them. And then you decide if you're by yourself, which is fine, or if there's somebody else with you. And then you decide what your mood is, what their mood is. You exchange a few quick words, and then you get out. And if you do this several times a day, what begins to happen is you begin to establish your own chosen patterns of vibration. Now, there are so many benefits to this. Some of you have been hearing us talking about the 3 parts to deliberate creation. Step 1 is ask, and you're doing that all the time. Contrast helps you to do that. Step 2 is not your work, that's answer. Source energy answers your request. Step 3, your part again. You've got to let it in. You have to be in a vibrational place where you are letting in what you are asking for. And this game of virtual reality is to enhance that part of the equation. In other words, all you got to do is vibrate more often in the place of well-being, and all of these things that you've been asking for will then be allowed into your experience by you. Because anything that you want that hasn't come in is only not coming in because you're not letting it in. And the reason you're not letting it in is usually because you're so busy looking at where you are, which is what has given birth to the desire, that looking at where you are is your dominant vibration. So if you don't have enough money, and out of that contrast is born a desire for more money, but you're observing not enough money, you're thinking about not enough money, you are living the experience of not enough money, then not enough money is your dominant vibration. And it doesn't matter how many prayers you pray, how many affirmations you speak, how many others you talk to about it. If your dominant vibration is about not enough money, you're not letting in the money that you're asking for, even though it's lined up for you, even though the universe is aware of it, even though source is flowing it to you, even though circumstances and events are all lined up to give it to you. You're not letting it in because you've been practicing a dominant vibration that is different from the dollars that you're asking for. When do you most often ask for something about your physical body? Isn't it always, or nearly always, when you are sick? So what's your dominant vibration? I don't feel good. Please help me to be better. I don't feel good. Please help me to be better. And if you ever want to know what your dominant vibration is, just look at the life you're living, because it is reflecting your dominant vibration exactly. So, this game of virtual reality is a game where you can, a little bit at a time, but it makes a lot happen in a short period of time. A little bit at a time, choose a vibration that feels really good to you. And what happens as you begin to practice a few of these virtual realities is you sort of get the habit of it. In other words, it begins to feel normal for you to feel the way that you are deliberately feeling within your virtual reality. So 2 big benefits happens. The first is, more of the time you're vibrating in harmony with what you really want, in sync with who you really are. And the other thing that happens is, when you find yourself slipping back into an old habit, or stumbling across a thought that activates something within you, you recognize it sooner. So in the earlier subtle stages, you are able to reflect on something that feels better. You hear us, we've offered so many processes, and every process that we've ever offered has been with a singular intent of helping you to allow the well-being that you deserve, helping you to allow yourself to be a vibrational match to what you're wanting. And this is just another of those tools.